Howdy y'all. Today we're on the way to Beale Springs, just outside of Kingman, Arizona. Now, Kingman actually sits in the background back here, and we're about maybe 15 or 16 miles away from Kingman at this point. But Kingman actually was established as a railroad town in the 1880s. In fact, actually it was incorporated as a town in 1882 in Arizona Territory. Named after Lewis Kingman. Lewis Kingman was a civil engineer for the Atlantic and Pacific railroads, and Lewis was responsible for surveying and building the railroad from Flagstaff, Arizona through Beale Springs down to Needles, California. So he was responsible for building that segment of the railroad that came through this area that was basically servicing the mines in the area. There is a lot of mining activity that was centered in and around Kingman in the 1800s. So today Beale Springs is our final destination, and Beale Springs and the town of Kingman actually sit right between the Hualapai mountain range and the Surbat mountain range in the distance. So it sits in that valley. The springs actually flow out of the mountain range down towards the valley. So we're going to be heading to the Beale Springs and take a look around. There's a lot of history associated with Beale Springs. Incidentally, Lewis Kingman, he did his thing here. He built the railroad from Flagstaff to Needles, which basically present day Route 66, or the old Route 66, and present day Interstate 40 actually follows his original railroad route. Unfortunately, Lewis Kingman, he passed away in 1912 in Mexico City, and you would think that he'd be buried in Kingman, Arizona, the namesake, but he is not. He is buried in Topeka, Kansas. If you're ever wandering across the desert and you see cattails, that's a sure sign that a spring is right there. So after walking through Beale Springs, I want to welcome you to the spring at Beale Springs. Now, Beale Springs was named after Lieutenant Edward Beale, who was a U.S. naval officer that was under the service of the U.S. Army Topographical Engineers. What he was supposed to do was he was surveying a road along the 35th parallel. Now, Lieutenant Beale came through this area in 1857 doing the surveying, and in 1859 started building the road. The road you can actually still see along the white cliffs at the Surbat Mountains that we're going to go over and see here in just a few minutes. Secondary order that Lieutenant Beale had was to come up and test the feasibility of using camels in the desert Southwest. Now, the Army was interested in using camels as a way of being hardy, basically lack of water, and as pack animals. Keep in mind, in the 1850s, you still had mining activity that was going on in the area, and we needed to have a way of getting a reliable source of supplies out to the west. Unfortunately, the Civil War happened, and the Civil War interrupted the use of the camels, and the experiment basically died. The Army basically decided to not pursue using camels as a mode of transportation or as a supply animal in the desert Southwest. The camels were actually sold at auction, and the last camel was seen alive in Arizona in 1891. There were fruit trees that were located here at Beale Springs back in the time when Kingman was using this as a municipal water source. They had a grove of fruit trees that they had planted. So if you're looking in the background and you're seeing these things that look like lemons hanging here, these are not fruit trees. This is actually what's known as coyote gourd, and it's basically it's a weed that produces a gourd-like plant that they're sometimes called buffalo gourds as well. They're not edible. They look kind of cool, but they're not edible. A lot of people now use them for handicrafts, and they make like snowmen out of them and Christmas tree ornaments. Also located right here on the ground, this is what's known as devil's claw. In 1865, William Hardy established a stop on his toll road here at Beale Springs. Now, William Hardy established the toll road from Hardyville, which is now Bullhead City, through Beale Springs all the way to Prescott, Arizona. He used the toll road as a way of getting mining supplies from the Colorado River at Hardyville to Prescott and the mines all along the way. He had the only stop along the Colorado River, or I should say he had the furthest northernest most stop on the Colorado River that was easily accessible year-round by steamboat. So he was able to get supplies up to Hardyville and then supply the mines in the area along his toll road. And his stop was here at Beale Springs on the way over to Prescott, Arizona. Well, here we are standing on the White Cliffs Wagon Road, and this was part of the original road that was built by William Hardy from Hardyville, now present-day Bullhead City. This was actually a toll road at the time that William Hardy built the road, and it was actually used as a mining haul road. But now the real question becomes, and I'm sure everybody is really interested, what rocks are those behind me here on the toll road? Well, this is actually part of a volcanic eruption. It's actually called the Beale Springs Tuff, and these are ash layers that were laid out during that volcanic eruption. Right, during the Hualapai War of 1866 to 1870, Captain Samuel Young established a temporary outpost here at Beale Springs in 1867. So it was only supposed to be a temporary outpost, and it was actually garrisoned by individuals from Fort Mojave, which is also located down by Hardyville, present-day Bullhead City. A permanent Army base was established in 1871 as a way of protecting travel routes in the area during the time of hostilities from the Hualapai War, 1866 to 1870. During this time, and the camp being much more permanent, 12 adobe structures were built, including the barracks that you see behind me, which at the time was 20 feet by 60 feet and was garrisoned by soldiers from Fort Whipple near what is now Prescott, Arizona. The Beale Spring Indian Agency was established in January of 1873 at the location here at Beale Spring. It was set up as a reservation and supply depot for the Hualapai Nation. However, in 1874, the camp was closed and the Hualapai were forced to move further south to what was known as the La Paz camp. This actually became known as the La Paz Trail of Tears for the Hualapai Nation. A lot of Hualapai were abused on the march, and a lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them basically died in the process of being relocated from Beale Springs to the La Paz camp. Now, La Paz, the camp was actually established 1874 by the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Army basically closed the camp in 1875 because most of the Hualapai at that point had actually moved back to their ancestral lands. Today, if you go and you visit La Paz camp, most of it has been destroyed because of flooding along the Colorado River. The original site was located near what is now known as Parker, Arizona, which is probably about 50 to 60 miles south of here. After 1874, Beale Springs once again became a way station along the toll road. The site remained active well into the 1900s when the town of Kingman was using this as a municipal water source, and they decided to build the tank that you can see behind me as a way of stockpiling the water during times of drought, and actually utilizing the source of water to a very small town of Kingman at that point. Now, well into the 1900s, the tank actually stood as their water source, and oftentimes it actually had a secondary purpose as the town swimming pool. So quite often you would actually see people up here using it as a swimming pool, and the water would be piped downhill to the town of Kingman, and they would use that as their municipal water source. Now, also along the way for Beale Springs has been utilized a lot from, well, centuries. The indigenous people had used Beale Springs well before anybody showed up out in the Southwest, and so Beale Springs has been utilized for a long time. It's been utilized basically as a source of water. It's been utilized as ranch lands. It's been utilized as water source for the mining in the area. It's been utilized for milling of ore. It's also been utilized for as a waterworks. We've now found our way pretty close to the site of the former Army hospital that was located here at Beale Springs. And this is also where our adventure comes to a close for today. What do you think would have been the hardest thing about living near Beale Springs in the 1800s to 1900s? I'd like to hear about it in the comments. Also, if you like our video, please subscribe, turn on the notifications, and I'll be seeing you on down the road.
Thanks for watching and supporting our channel. Remember, don't take a trip, let the trip take you.
The camera's on? Yes. Right now? Yes. We're ready to go? Ready to go. Cut that, because I don't even know what I'm saying there. That's not true.